I hope you're having a good day today. We are going to be looking at one of the prophets towards the end of the Old Testament. And you can tell, obviously, we're after the captivity, and we know what those after the captivity, what they were charged with. Namely, you need to get ready for the Messiah. So we're coming to the conclusion of the Old Testament. We're going to be looking at some of those prophets. Today we're going to be looking at Zechariah. Now today's hymn is on Jordan's stormy banks, and I was just thinking about this picture of being on a precipice and looking out over that precipice, and you'll understand as we go along, I suppose.
On Jordan's stormy banks I stand and cast a wishful eye to Canaan's fair and happy land where my possessions lie. We will rest in the fair and happy land by and by, just across on the evergreen shore. Sing the song of Moses and the Lamb by and by, and dwell with Jesus evermore.
As I said, thinking about the picture of being on a precipice, looking out. Let's look at our passage now. Zechariah chapter 13, verse 1. On that day there shall be a fountain opened for the house of David and the inhabitants of Jerusalem to cleanse them from sin and uncleanness. And on that day, declares the Lord of hosts, I will cut off the names of the idols from the land, so that they shall be remembered no more. And also I will remove from the land the prophets and the spirit of uncleanness. So we're going to think about three things. The first one is going to be the idols. And it is interesting, and I'm not sure if I fully understand exactly what is being spoken about here. But it is interesting that when you come up to the New Testament and we think about what the people were doing as they were getting ready for the Messiah. And this is sort of like Joshua when he led the people into the Promised Land. And he says, choose for yourselves this day whom you'll serve. You're going to serve God, like me and my household, or are you going to serve the idols of all the people? It says choose. Choose. If you think it's better to serve the idols, that's your choice. And so we recognize what got the people into captivity, idolatry. And when they come out, like, you better put those idols away because the Messiah is coming. And I'll just say this. When you come up to the New Testament, at least for Israel, they are not still worshiping the Ashtoreths. They are not still worshiping the Baals. They are not still worshiping those things. Those things have stopped. And we think about the power of the Lord and that God is a jealous God. I think about John chapter 4, the woman at the well, when the Lord speaks about worshiping in spirit and truth. That idea of worshiping in spirit and truth, I think that perhaps may really be what's in view with this notion of what's coming. The Messiah is coming, and those idols, no, they will be remembered no more. I'd like to look at the spirit of uncleanness now, because that's our second point. The demons. The demons. It is a little like, do you remember what is said? I believe it's about the blind man. When the disciples say, who sinned, this man or his parents? The Lord says, no, but that the glory of God may be revealed. And how are you going to show the Lord's power over the devil and over the demons? And so I would suggest perhaps the demonic possession, that does not happen anymore. It was allowed to happen for a time to show the Lord's power over the unclean spirits. When the unclean spirits say, Please do not send us into the abyss. We know who you are. The Lord, as you have the account of the demons going into the swine, that was the time. You have the unclean spirits, and you have the Lord, and you have those who the Lord authorized to have power over the unclean spirits. But there's coming a time when the unclean spirits will be cut off as well. And so the Zechariah passage may be speaking about the Lord's power over the unclean spirits, or it may be pointing to a time when these things are all coming to an end. Perhaps thinking about the end of the gifts of the Spirit, various gifts that were needed in the first century. Well, according to 1 Corinthians chapter 13, those things are going to come to an end eventually. So you might think about these things, but regardless of the way you're looking at it, it's the Lord's power is the same. And the idolatry will be cut off. The unclean spirits will be cut off. But then also, verse 2, the prophets. It may be speaking about the prophets who prophesied, tying it in with uncleanness. The prophets who had been liars all along. I think it may be speaking about that. But it may be speaking about the gifts of prophecy in general. And if anyone again prophesies, his father and mother who bore him will say to him, "You shall not live, for you speak lies in the name of the Lord." And his father and mother who bore him shall pierce him through when he prophesies. On that day, every prophet will be ashamed of his vision. And you just look at the language. On that day, every prophet will be ashamed of his vision when he prophesies. He will not put on a hairy cloak in order to deceive. Prophets wore a certain garment, so they were prophets. But he will say, "I am no prophet, I am a worker of the soil, for a man sold me in my youth." And if one asks him, "What are these wounds on your back?" he will say, "The wounds I received in the house of my friends." What it's a picture of is discipline, and that people are not going to need these things anymore, because the Lord is teaching people. The Word of God is going to be revealed. And when the Word of God is revealed, in Hebrew, I believe it's Hebrews, where you have this quotation from the Old Testament, "No man shall teach his neighbor anymore. I will teach them." The Word of the Lord is going to be revealed. It's going to be written down. And yes, we still need help understanding. We spoke about that yesterday. But we're not going to need the prophets anymore. Right? We're not going to need those things. And so that's one reason that I chose this hymn, or this hymn was chosen. You're on this great precipice, and you're looking out, and you're looking at this immense time of change. And to back up, on that day declares, back up to verse 1. On that day there shall be a fountain open for the house of David and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, to cleanse them from sin and uncleanness. You're on this great precipice. And there's coming a time where there's going to be a new covenant. And as that new covenant is established, and you have people who are going to be worshiping in spirit and truth. And those things were transpiring even in John 4, by the way, Jesus speaks about. But they're going to turn away from the unclean spirits. They're going to turn away. Those things are going to be cut off, and the word of the Lord is going to be revealed. And so change is coming. And it is a better way. Better way. Appreciate you. Hope you have a good day. Join us tomorrow for another portion of our Daily Praise.